Hello all and welcome to The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day right here in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Haryanto, coming to you live from the Straits Times. We are streaming to you on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to hit the comment, like and share button. Now while they're at it, make sure that you hit the bell button as well to be alerted of our videos. I'll have my newsroom colleagues joining me in this show to discuss the stories that got you talking today. Now, our first segment is about a missing person and a sum of money to the tune of about $33 million. Now, the missing sum in an escrow account belonging to Allied Technologies and held by law firm JLC Advisors is believed to have been paid out. And this was done on the instructions of the law firm's managing partner, Jeffrey Ong Soo On. Now, Mr. Ong is in turn has been missing for several days. The payout was said to might have been unauthorized. Allied Tech said despite repeated demands for repayment since March and a letter of demand by its lawyers from Raja & Tan in May, JLC has failed to release the balance escrow funds of more than $33 million. To help us understand better this case, I have senior law correspondent KC Vijayan. Welcome, Vijay.
Thank you.
Vijay, now tell me, can you briefly tell us what has happened for this case here?
As taking off from where you have left off, since the funds were reported missing, there have been investigations on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
Firstly, you have got the company itself, Allied Technologies. They are together with what instruction they've been given by the Singapore Exchange.
Yeah.
They have a special auditor to look into the accounts and see what the developments. Secondly, you have got the Law Society.
Yeah.
They are looking at the accounts. They have taken control of the client accounts in the law firm itself.
Yeah.
And their job is to also appoint an auditor to see, to audit the accounts, an investigative audit. The third aspect is, of course, the most important one, that's the police investigations. And that is ongoing.
Yeah.
Not forgetting that JLC Advisors themselves, since they are stunned in a way as to what happened, they are also going through the payouts to see what actually happened.
Right. And of course, Vijay, when the news of Mr. Ong's disappearance broke, it certainly shocked his family members and his employees as well. Who is this lawyer really at the center of the saga? Was it unexpected for him to do such a thing?
Well, I mean, if you look at his background, his achievements, he's a model lawyer from a model family.
Yeah.
He's a managing partner since last August.
Yeah.
He has done some good deals. He is well known as he's got a reputation as a good dealer, perhaps good in business in addition to being a businessman, in addition to being a lawyer. He's not flashy.
Yeah.
He runs an organization, I believe, in a very non-hierarchy manner.
Yeah.
What we do not know is his downside.
Right.
There isn't a clue, he just disappeared. That, of course, is a sign of something is obviously amiss.
Yeah.
You can't discount the possibility based on past people running away, not necessarily lawyers. Any casino connection, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And of course,
so there are a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, and of course, Vijay, the case is still very new and a lot of details are still unknown, correct?
Right.
So moving forward, earlier on you did mention, there are the 3 different agencies, they're conducting their own investigation. So what happens now? What can we expect, moving forward?
Well, we start with the Law Society. They have appointed, I believe, audit firm to look into the accounts. They should possibly finish within 2 weeks or within a month. And after that, they will decide whether to escalate the case if they find some dishonesty involved, and if there's evidence of dishonesty, what action to take. In the case of Allied Technologies, well, their audit will have to report to the Singapore Exchange. That will take more time. The third aspect, obviously, the police, the investigation is ongoing and they will probably take a long time.
A long time as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So again, like we mentioned earlier on, still details are still unknown.
Sketchy.
It's very sketchy
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
and then clearly Mr. Ong is still missing.
Yes.
Right, and people still don't know what has happened.
Right. He's non-contactable.
And he's non-contactable as well. Even efforts and attempts by the Straits Times to actually contact him via his mobile phone, and even going down to his residential area, bore no yield no results at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's just completely, it's as though he has gone off the grid.
Yeah. Although I believe he has the ability to contact us, lah.
Yeah, he has the ability to contact us, certainly. So, Mr. Ong, if you are watching us right now, you can certainly contact the Straits Times. But really, jokes aside, Vijay, thank you so much for coming on board the show. You know, and certainly for more updates and for more of the case, do monitor our straitstimes.com website. Once again, thank you, Vijay, for coming onto the show. Now, moving on to our second segment, Certificate of Entitlement prices ended lower across the board at the latest tender last week. Now, with the premium for smaller cars taking the biggest tumble, COE prices for cars up to 1,600cc and 130 bhp fell by 26.4% to end at $27,000. Now, COE prices for cars above 1,600cc slid 11.3% to end at 42,564. Now, the plunge lured prospective buyers to car showrooms over the weekend. Now, as tempting as it may be, is it advisable to buy a car now? Now, to tell us more, I have senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
So, Chris, in your commentary piece earlier this month, you said, don't rush to push COE prices higher. Would you advise the same in this instant?
Yeah, I would say that there's really no need to rush at any point in time. I think if you looked at the COE prices in the last few rounds, you saw it on the uptrend, right?
Yeah.
It was going up and up. And that obviously caused some people to panic.
Yeah.
Caused some people to go rush to the showroom to catch it before it went higher.
Yeah.
And the effect of that was, the opposite, right?
Yeah.
It pushed prices even higher.
Even higher, yeah.
Yeah, so I think in a situation like this, it's always wise to exercise some, restraint, hold back a little, because the COE system is very reactive to demand.
Yeah.
Right, the more people go in, the more it will rise. It's a very, very simple system. So if people withheld their purchases for a little bit longer, there's every chance that prices will stabilize or even dip as it did in the last round.
So it's really simple economics of demand and supply, right?
Yes.
So in this instant, Chris, if one does not buy a car, should then they renew their COE for those who currently have?
Well, that's
cars?
always an option. I think in Singapore, the most economical way of owning a car is to own it for 10 years, right? The duration of your COE. And at the end of that, the option of extending for another 10 years, providing that your car is in good shape, it hasn't been giving you any problems, it's always a wise move too. Because you are amortizing that big ticket item over a longer period. Compared to making a new purchase.
Right.
But of course, if the new car is at quite a low price, lower than what you paid for your older car, then it makes sense to renew it. I mean, to trade it in for a new car, right? Yeah,
definitely.
So it all also depends on your personal situation, right? Your personal financial situation, point,
and of course your needs,
your family needs, point in your career, your gearing. That means how much borrowing you already have, and whether you can do better with the money that that you would have put down for a car.
Right.
Because if you do not buy a car in Singapore, you could very well end up with $500,000 more in your retirement fund. Right?
Definitely, Chris. And I think at this juncture, of course, we would like to look at the infographics of the COE prices for the different categories. And of course, the question is, Chris, it seems that Cat B is pulling further away from Category A. Why is this so?
All right, this category would be the category that the private hire car operators are participating in most aggressively. Right now, the trend is for them to buy a lot of hybrid cars. Hybrid cars are in demand because the drivers gain from better fuel economy. And because these hybrid cars belong, most of them anyway, or if not all, belong to category B, which is why you see the demand in category B being higher, and consequently the prices
go up,
pulling away from Cat A
as well. Right. So, Chris, of course, I think a lot of our viewers, they want to know, any predictions on the next COE tender?
Well, I think very much depends on what people out there do, right? I think if they I think there is every chance for it to go further. Maybe not immediately, but down the road. Because if you look at the prices last year, the supply was actually smaller than the year before, and yet prices was actually quite soft. Right? So I think there's no need to rush. I mean, going back to your first question, there's really no need to rush. And the purchase of a car, decision to buy at which point, really depends on a whole range of reasons.
And of course, the next tender, it will be in 2 weeks' time, is that right?
Yes.
In 2 weeks' time. Of course, last week was the latest tender, so we are expecting the next one to come up probably next week or the following week,
Yeah.
All right. So once again, thank you, Chris, for sharing some insights on whether one should buy a car amidst the lower COE prices that closed at the latest tender last week. So once again, thank you, Chris. Now moving on to our third segment, good news for students. You may not need to take mid-year examinations next year. Now speaking to more than 1,700 teachers at a conference at Singapore Expo Hall earlier today, Education Minister Ong Ye Kung gave this update and shared the progress schools have made in implementing recent policy changes. By next year, more than half of primary schools and over 90% of secondary schools would have removed mid-year examinations for some levels, which is a year ahead of its stipulated schedule. Now, to tell us more, I have education correspondent Amelia Teng. Amelia, welcome to the show. Now, Amelia, to start off, can you tell us, what is this trend? What can we make of this trend? It seems as though, the direction that MOE is taking with scraping mid-year examinations, and then previously, with streaming, and then even with the changes to the PSLE scores as well. What can we make of this trend?
Okay. So MOE has overall been, trying to move away from this overemphasis on academic grades in the last few years, and hopefully in that process reduce some of the stress that a lot of students and parents have been talking about for decades. And so by next year, more than half of the primary schools and more than 90% of secondary schools here will be doing away with the mid-year examinations. So this will be at primary 3, primary 5, Sec 1 and Sec 3 levels. And also MOE had announced in March about its doing away with the streaming as we know it, so the normal technical, normal academic and express streams in secondary schools. And so in its place would be this thing called full subject-based banding. What it really means is so students would take subjects at differing difficulty levels depending on your strengths in whichever subjects. So more schools have actually volunteered to come forward and be part of the pilot, which starts next year. So MOE had a 3-year deadline by 2021 for the schools to implement some of these changes, but it's actually good that the schools are coming on board ahead of schedule, and it means they're really on board all these changes.
And they want to participate in these changes moving forward. And of course, at the conference as well, Minister Ong also mentioned about changes to and expansion plans to the 2-year program in literature and mother tongue languages. He also mentioned that the bilingualism policy, it can be considered as a hallmark of Singapore's education system. Neuroscience research has shown that there are cognitive advantages for those who are bilingual from a young age. Now, these include better working memory, longer attention spans, and multitasking abilities. So he mentioned about these expansion plans. What do these expansion plans entail?
So, not many people know about this program called the Language Elective Program, which has been actually around since 1990.
Or the LEP for short, right?
The LEP for short, in a few junior colleges. So what they're doing now is to expand this language elective program to secondary schools, 15 schools next year, and a few more JCs as well.
Right.
So this program, a lot of people or students, think that Chinese lit or even Malay lit or Tamil lit is kind of chim and it's hard enough to master your own mother tongue, and now you want to do literature. So, but the program users tries to use creative ways to try and engage students at a deeper level, to know the culture behind your language and your mother tongue. So, if you're a student in this program, you can do, you can attend like creative writing workshops. You go for like overseas immersion trips to China or to Malaysia. So there's a range of enrichment activities that would not be available to someone who's just doing a literature class or a Chinese class.
Normal program.
Correct.
Coincidentally, right, Amelia, I was actually part of the LEP program, the Malay Language Elective program in TP, in Tampines Junior College. So I think it's quite nice to see that, the program is going to be rolled out to other schools as well, beyond just JC, because I remember at my time it was just TP, and then after that Innova got it, and then now it's rolled out to more JCs and even secondary school level as well, right? And talking about that, Amelia, of course, Minister mentioned some reasons as to why these plans have been rolled out. What are some of the reasons that he cited in terms of wanting to uphold bilingualism in Singapore?
So bilingualism has always been a very big part of Singapore's education policy and schools. So we always know that you need to learn English as well as your mother tongue. But in recent months, this topic has somewhat come up again a bit strongly in some of Minister Ong's speeches. And especially because of the SAP schools, Special Assistance Plan schools, which are celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So he has defended this bilingualism, biculturalism policy that MOE has held for many years. And in today's speech at the event, he spends quite a lot of time talking about why bilingualism is important, why being fluent or being able to converse in 2 languages is needed for to access global opportunities at this time. And so firstly, I guess because of the region around us and how fast Asia is growing, and being in this region, it is really an advantage to be multicultural and to know
multilingual as well, right?
To know the languages of the region. And in fact, the graduates of the LEP that I spoke to last week, they all had the same consensus that being able to know Chinese at a deeper level, Malay at a deeper level, helped them in their careers. And their greatest takeaway was that language and culture are very interconnected. So if you know a language, you don't just know a language, but you know the people and you understand them. Behind the language.
And of course, Singapore is not unique in its bilingual policy as well. Right?
We often think that we are somewhat unique, but actually a lot of countries are also catching up.
Right.
In China, now you have to learn English as a compulsory subject in primary school, and in Europe it's very common to learn like 2 or 3 languages from ages 6 to 9. So these were some of the examples that Mr. Ong had talked about.
And of course, Amelia, on that note, you talked about in Europe where they take more than 2 languages, 3 languages. Mr. Ong also mentioned about the 3rd language policy, because right now it is only offered to the upper echelon, as it were, the top 10% of the cohort. Are there plans for the 3rd language policy to be expanded as well?
So he hasn't said much about this, but it sounds like the MOE is exploring ways to make third languages more flexible, more accessible to more students. So beyond just the top 10%. So meaning that you could take maybe French or German at conversational level without having to take the exam. So I think it's a good start because you don't have to. Not everything in school has to be tested. Tested. Right? And you just learn the language because you're interested in it.
For sure. And of course, in turn as well, learn about the culture and everything that has to do with the language as well. Right. Again, thank you, Amelia, for coming on board to the show. So if you're one of the students who are benefiting from the exams that are going to be scrapped next year, well, good for you, right? For those of you who unfortunately, your schools haven't jumped onto the bandwagon yet, don't worry, it will eventually be rolled out to your school once it reaches to that phase, right? Once again, thank you, Amelia, for coming on board to the show. And those are our top stories for the day. For more news and videos, do log on to our website at www.straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Haryanto. Join us again, same time tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.